Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Nathan,
Hello.
Tom.
I'm having trouble getting my camera on. It's a tablet I haven't used before. Just
Okay.
FYI. But you can hear me okay, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Who's town of Shutesbury?
I think that's me. I gotta log out and come back. Be back in a second.
Oh, okay.
Leave.
Jeff, how are you?
Good, good. How about you, Nathan?
Oh, I'm doing good. Doing
Good.
good.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
And how are your kids doing?
Oh, good. We just went through a quick bout of, whatever is kicking around Shutesbury Elementary School over there, but I think we're on the up and up now, which is
Sorry.
good.
Yeah. How old are they?
6 and 4.
Okay. I see a lot of work in your future.
Oh, yeah. All right. It's 7:02. And we have a quorum, so I will call this January 15th meeting of the Shutesbury Planning Board to order. I'll note that the meeting is being recorded. And I'd like to start off by again offering my apology for the snafu last week and not posting the agenda. I was thinking about it all day, and then when the critical window came where I finished my work day, and before 7 o'clock it just went right out of my head. So, I apologize, and I think I've got reminders set. I obviously usually get the agenda up, but I might start trying to work with Mateo a little bit and have him start adding stuff as it comes up over the month, right? Just to kind of get things in there.
You should
Um,
ask your kids to remind you when you get home.
yeah. Well, the thing is, yeah, I should ask my kids to remind me though. That's a good point. Okay. I don't know if yeah, we've got six. I'll also note that I'm going to designate Tom to act as a full member.
Okay.
So we'll do that. And now oh, that's- give me a second here. I'm trying to, there we go. All right. Anyone have public comment? No. Okay. Hearing and seeing none. Landowner education and guidance. No. Yeah, I'll note that there was somebody inquired about ADUs. I think it was for West Pelham Road. It was a couple weeks back. And we gave him a copy of the warrant from annual town meeting where we did the ADU bylaw. And haven't heard from them since. They're not here. Just a note. All right.
Actually, I'll just add one note too on that.
Yeah.
I sent out an email, but um, Jeff Lacy had let me know that um,
Yeah.
Conway put in the 100-foot proximity for the ADU, and they got back a response that the AGU approved it. The AG approved it. And I had to go back. I couldn't remember if we included it, but we did. So I'm assuming that that'll pass muster as well, which is cool.
Yeah. No reason it wouldn't, right? It's I don't know. I mean, I suppose you could come up with a reason, but I feel like we did a good job vetting all that out. Now, yes, thank you. Next on the agenda will be review and approve minutes for 12/8/2025. So those have been posted in the Google Drive. And
I'll move to
Okay.
approve the minutes of December 8th, 2025.
all right, do I have a second?
I've got, actually, you know what? Never mind. I'll
Okay.
second.
Yeah, second. Okay, so Dick Chiaro moves and Hasty has seconded that the board approve the minutes from 12/8/2025. And I'll have some discussion. I'll just know, I thought Matteo did a great job with those minutes. That seemed pretty concise and well captured.
I only had one questionable edit, which I think I CC'd you on, Nathan, just to see, but on the top of page 6, when we started talking about FEMA and floodplains, I think I was the one who was talking about FEMA reviewing the floodplains, and he said you were. Do you remember which one of us said it? Not that it really
Um,
matters.
Well, top of page 6.
Yeah, it's the third paragraph. I'm happy to attribute you. I just thought it came out of my mouth. I don't really care.
Well, you brought it up when you were talking about FERCog. And you had sent an email, and then I had like kind of looked at what you sent. And I went out and found the model bylaw in the state, and we talked about that.
Well, maybe it was you.
Well, I mean, you did bring it up, but I, participated in the discussion, right? So let's take a look.
Okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's nothing controversial about it. So
Well, I mean, it's yeah,
I'm guessing he was watching the video, so he's probably accurate.
I don't, I mean, we're doing all right agenda wise. I don't know if you want, we could just do a quick no, don't care. Okay.
Okay.
I've got one very minor edit.
Okay.
If we're entertaining edits,
Yeah, sure. I realize I have the, so I'm gonna wait. Share. All right, are we looking at my screen where we see Shutesbury Planning Board minutes, December 8th, 2025?
Yep.
Okay. Where are we at, Keith?
page 4, paragraph 2.
Okay.
Where there's two, again, minor things. I think this paragraph 2. Oh, the last sentence of that paragraph. Hasty points out that operators of data center. I think when I went back and watched the video, because I think I said they, and when I said they, I meant I don't know what the operators think, but I think fire code and from what I understand from our fire chief, that the standard practice from a firefighter's emergency response perspective is not to apply water to these things. I don't know what the operators think. I think they're probably on board too. So points out that current firefighting guidance is to not apply water directly to the electronics or something like that.
Emergency response
Yeah,
guidance?
perfect. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's really the only thing I had. Thank
Okay,
you.
so that captures it there, okay. Anyone else? So, there was one thing maybe would be, so, I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know, it's, I'm good, actually. So, yeah, all right, in that case, I'll call the roll. Let's see, did we lose Ashley?
I'm here.
You're here, okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen. Everyone saw the edit that we made on the screen. And, call the roll, we're gonna say, De Chiara,
Aye.
Hasty,
Aye.
Pycroft,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Seifert,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion carries unanimously. The board's approved the minutes from December 8th, 2025. We made an edit during the discussion. Mateo, welcome.
Hi. Sorry I'm late. CPC meeting took 10 minutes.
That was a quick one.
It was.
Do I need to make you a host? Are you already a host?
I think I'm set up as co-host.
Okay. Excellent. I'll make Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's only a matter of time before we're gonna. So Mateo, we just approved the minutes from last meeting. Good job on those. And now we're on data center, discussion of data center bylaw.
I'm going
I
to share
put
my
out from-
screen.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I'll do a little intro. So thank you all for the last discussion. You'll see at the top in this key, you guys all see it already?
Mhm.
So there's a couple of colors going. So the purple are the edits that I made based on the conversation we had at our last meeting in December. And then the green are edits I made in conversation with Jeff, because what I have been trying to do is sort of get different people's input. So it seemed like having a conversation with Jeff would be helpful. And then the red are things that, oh no, that's not right. Let's see, hold on. Nope, the green is what I got from talking to Nathan. Yes, from talking to Nathan. Nathan had a couple of comments that he pointed out. And the red I got from reading the minutes just a couple of days ago and realized that there were things that were discussed at the December meeting that I didn't put into the changes, and it seemed like we should. So that's sort of how this breaks out. And there's not a ton of them. So I can just go through them if it makes sense, and then we can, if everyone has questions. So I clarified here. One of the questions I think Steve asked was, how are we measuring size? And, he was saying that it's the area of, the width and the length, but then the height, including floor, and basically the volume of this thing. So that one of the things I did is I looked up, and gross building area is essentially the volume. So, the footprint times the height. So I put that in the definition, and I tried to capture that in the data center definition as well. So that's hopefully clarifying. So I'll just walk through it, and then we can circle back if that works for everybody. This green one here, this is one of the things that Nathan pointed out, which was when we think about the Zoning Act, in addition to solar being a protected use, there's 9 protected uses. One of them is education. And so Nathan pointed out that it could be that like UMass said they wanted to build one. And it's education is a protected use, so we'd have to figure out how that plays out. So this is sort of a placeholder to basically say that to this extent necessary to protect public health, welfare, and safety and consistent with the limits of statute, we're going to enforce these regulations. So at the time, if someone comes forth and they're an educational institution, we'll have that conversation and try to figure out. But my understanding is we want these regulations to stand within the context of what we can do in the law. And then Nathan had requested, this is one of the things I missed from our previous meeting when I was looking at the notes, that he had wanted to put the definitions in the body as well as in it, so that it was in this section as opposed to the definition section. I think we can discuss. I think Nathan's intent, and you can tell me later what it was, that we should put it in here and not have it in the definitions. I ended up putting it in both because that's what we have in solar. So it seemed like just replicating solar. I do think putting in the body is here because, you know, the original version of the solar bylaw, I think the first 2 versions, everyone would say, we know it's, you know, we know what the dimensions are, but then you could never find them because they were in the definitions and no one ever looked in the definitions. So I think it's helpful to have the body here.
Michael, can we interject things?
If
Yeah,
you
let's
guys
make
want-
like us through the changes and then we'll open it
we'll
up.
circle back.
Okay.
So I think the biggest change that I ended up doing based on the conversation we had was that splitting out power backup systems, and I intentionally didn't call it batteries because I didn't want the AG to get all wigged out. But basically splitting out that from electrical storage and UPS. So what's the backup and what's the storage? And a lot of it, I just sort of kept the concepts that we had agreed to. I just called it, like you'll see here in 3 and 4, I just call it power backup. So I was labeling them consistent with splitting them out. And then this red shows up in this section, and then with the electrical storage, I think this is one of Nathan's points that just for future proofing, that we reserve the right to review and approve technologies that are not anticipated. Because we're specific about some technologies. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? And then the other significant part, and this is what I think we can probably dig into, but you know, Jeff had made some impassioned arguments in terms of lithium-ion batteries, and so when he and I talked, it seemed like the lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide, we talked about it being prohibited. Unless there's a way they can demonstrate that there's needs. And I think this might have come from you, Keith. I'm not sure what the origin was. And then some of these in number 3, the parameters to basically say if we're going to use lithium ion batteries, requiring something, some are carried over, like, you know, not using PFAS foam, etc. But some things are new, which is having a buffer between the batteries and flammable materials, which is not a new concept for our conversations. But it sort of breaks it out. So the bottom line is, with the exception of the bad lithium, you know, nickel, magnesium, cobalt oxide, we would allow lithium ion with these parameters. So I think that's all there. And then this red thing is the same as before, that, you know, for future proofing, we'd retain the ability to authorize to review and approve new technologies that are not yet out there. And then I think that beginning part is most of it. There's a couple of small things here. I clarified again the maximum building area, just it carries over from earlier. I think there's Tom who made a point. Oh, it's not this one. Oh yeah, this was Tom's point, that in addition to an emergency response plan, if the fire chief requests it, an incident action plan, which is a more detailed tactical sort of document. And apparently, I think it's in Wendell, the fire chief wanted it. So it seems like having it across to the fire chief just sort of makes it more articulated, you know, if they don't need it. Because it's sort of like who does what as opposed to how you're going to approach it. which is more strategic in nature. And then I think there might be one thing at the end here, but I'm not 100% sure. No, that's it. So, comment away.
Jeff, do you want
Michael, did you have a chance to see my email and throw a few of those things in or no?
I didn't throw them in. I did see them, but I have to pull them up. But I think Nathan got them as well.
Mhm.
So, if you want to, Nathan, do you want?
I've not,
Would you like them
I've not reviewed that, but we can discuss it now, yeah.
Well, they're just minor things, but I thought I'd throw them in. I think some of them were caught. I don't know whether on page 2, under C1 and 2,
Yeah.
do you want to put an AND after number 2 as well to make sure that number 3 is included or no?
Say that again.
You see where it says alternative manner, semicolon, and?
Yeah.
Do you want to put an and after number 2 as well?
Oh.
Or remove the and make it, well, I mean, you can put and, but like, it's,
I think actually would be better because 1 and 2 have to be true. I think 3 is not a condition; it's more a statement.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good catch. I think what I would do
that's
is
3 is a condition too. I mean, it's like, 3 has to be true that,
okay,
such a waiver does not negate. I mean, I don't know, it's like,
like that.
Yeah, that's all. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm just throwing that out because it seems to
That's
include
fine.
1 and 2 and not 3.
Yeah, that's good with me. And if it's a condition, Nathan, like you're saying, then we should have them all be. Oh, Tom's got his hand raised.
Yeah, am I muted or not?
Nope.
we can hear
Oh,
you.
good. Yeah, I'm glad we got to this one. I didn't know if you wanted to get to things like punctuation, things like the and that Jeff caught, because I was looking at that too. But if you wanted to stay at this section C for a second, I'll just mention it now and tell me if you don't want me to go there in other parts of the document, and instead I can do it just over email or something. But in number 1, do you see how negate is double underlined?
Yeah.
The that before negate should not be there. And at the beginning of number 2 and number 3, the that shouldn't be there. They should just start with such, because they all start with if at the beginning of section C there.
Well, before you go making the edits, just give everyone a chance to consider. I mean, Tom's usually on point,
absolutely.
but, yeah, I mean, so kind of following it from if special circumstances of the site, its surroundings, or the proposal negate the need, right? Yeah, so,
It had been proposal that negate, and it confused me, and I realized why.
yeah, no, yeah, I agree with that. Well, yeah, okay. Yep.
So that would mean at the end of number 2, we would put a semicolon instead of a period. Also in number 1, I think it's standard practice where it says the objectives of this section. I think it might be better to put of this section 8.13 after that. It's been my experience that even if you say this section, you still label it. And that might be true for the bottom where it says paragraph C under number 3. It might better be put paragraph 8.13-2C. And if it's okay with everyone, if somebody could explain what this sentence means that we just added the 8.132C to, I just didn't quite understand it about the affirmative or negative vote. And again, if it's something that's better just dealt with me over an email, tell me. We don't have to take up time with it now.
No, it's quick. It just means that voting to allow a waiver or to disallow a request for a waiver or to allow a request for a waiver is not equivalent to voting to issue the permit or deny the permit. So, for example, There could be waiver considerations that are part of a special permit application, and the board may vote on such waiver applications in the affirmative and then go on to deny the permit.
That's what I
And-
thought this might mean. Okay.
So that's it. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
It's just saying that, the consideration of the waiver is not to be confused with the consideration of the permit itself.
Yeah, and this language was copied from the solar one that Donna's, approved a couple of times.
Yeah. One of the sentences, the more I read it, the less I understood it. And I had to just leave it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. And Jeff, did you have another one?
I did, page 5,
Uh,
under 3. And then just in terms, stop for a second. If we're listing a 3 here, shouldn't the lot size be an A? Shouldn't we do?
Oops, sorry. That
Yeah.
was not.
Shouldn't it
Um,
go? Shouldn't it go 3, then A, B, C, and so forth?
A1, A2, A3.
Lot sizes. I think you changed it. Okay. Go up.
Yeah, so
Lot
no,
size.
this is A1, right? And then 2 and 3.
We jumped around a little bit. Find 3 again.
Right there.
Okay. Find 3. Oh, okay. Wait a second. And then underneath is lot size.
Yeah.
Maybe, okay. Maybe it's changed. B.
This
Well,
point,
I would,
This-
yeah.
I
I
would
would
like
say,
to,
yeah, let's not do this because I'll make sure, once we go, because we have to have it go through Donna and whatever. But I'll make sure that whatever the
Proper
May I-
outline.
the
Format.
hierarchy is consistent.
may I?
Can I-
We do, excuse me, we do have a bylaw that states that formatting section concerns may be manipulated as needed by the town clerk or, other, I don't know the exact language, but it basically covers this situation.
Okay.
It's good
So,
to get it right, but just, to alleviate your concern about it, we can tweak this stuff and,
Yeah,
the only
I-
thing that's really important is that, where there are references in different sections of the bylaw that if we do have to tweak anything, that we are very careful about making sure that we don't, corrupt any of the existing references. I mean, it's good to get right if it is. I see how it works. It seems correct. It may be helpful if the numbered items under the lettered items are potentially indented a little
Yeah.
bit or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I'm
always
not concerned about. I'm not concerned about it. I'm just bringing it up. I'm fine about skipping it. Let's go to maximum building area. 3. I would suggest where it says facility height and unfinished space. I don't know if you'd mind or consider adding exterior buildings, storage facilities, and any associated equipment. So I wanted to include the exterior buildings and storage facilities. Maybe that's understood, but maybe it should be included as well. So inclusive of facility, height, and unfinished space. I would add exterior buildings or storage facilities and any associated equipment.
I think, well, I'm just gonna go up to the top for the definitions, because that's how I approach it in definitions. This includes, oh no, it doesn't include that.
It doesn't include exterior buildings.
Oh, here we go. A data center including buildings, accessory structures, and equipment within the project footprint. So it would just be
Accessories, okay.
carrying this concept farther down. Because this is in the definition, but to your point, we can make it more clear just so that it's not
Okay.
confusing.
So accessory structures would be exterior buildings or storage facilities as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
What page was that? 5?
I'm on page 5 under 3.
Here. Right there.
It's I was just going to include facility height and unfinished space, exterior buildings or storage facilities. But it doesn't matter. If you feel like it's included already, that's fine.
No, I think, just because it's in the definition, it'd be worth doing. There, I think that's, including accessory structures.
Including buildings, exterior buildings, maybe not necessary, or storage facilities, maybe not necessary.
Yeah, they're all accessory structures.
Okay.
I've got a question, inclusive of, so we're talking area. And then it says inclusive of facility height and unfinished space. And then the next one, we talk about the height of the structure.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if including facility height is
Should we get rid of it?
not needed here. I'm not sure what that means.
It was tricky because it came, it was part of the conversation about, I think we agreed that height was there, but it wasn't clear last time we talked. And so I sort of put it in just to insert the concept to make sure everyone understood, even though we define, I'm gonna make you guys nauseous again for a second, sorry. The gross building area is really includes the height, because it says all floors.
Well, then so I think what they're talking about, as I would, again, since we're talking area,
Yeah,
which is 2 dimensions,
right.
that would be and it's 5,000 square feet. So if we had a 2,500 square foot first floor and a 2,500 square foot second floor, that's 5,000 square feet.
Right.
But so this includes all floors, blah, blah, blah. So that makes sense. But then when you add in the height, then we're talking volume, I guess. Or that's where my mind went, was on that second one down farther that we were looking at.
Yeah. I was assuming it was volume. Like it seems weird to talk about volume in this stuff. Like when I was learning geometry or whatever, whenever you learn volume, there's like that's the 3D measurement. When it says all floors, it seems like that makes it be volume.
Not really. I think because it could be a floor, a room with a 8-foot ceiling or a room with a 10-foot ceiling. We don't really care as long as it doesn't exceed that exterior height. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like they could have a basement or 2 basements.
Right.
And as long as it doesn't exceed the 5,000 square foot area and doesn't exceed our, exterior height above grade.
Yeah.
The volume doesn't really matter to us.
So do you think volume is different from gross building area?
Yeah.
Should I say just the volume, gross building volume?
I don't think we want to go to volume.
Okay.
I mean, houses aren't measured in volume. They're measured in square footage.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's a different lingo for this.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So if this
while we're on this, like, I don't know if Tom, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'll say what I was going to say, and then it might be. But on page 5, where this comes up, we could just say maximum gross building area, and then just put.
Oops, sorry.
You get there first.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so after number 3, it could say, imagine it just saying maximum gross building area dash, and then skip the next sentence altogether because gross building area has already been defined above, and just go to the next sentence. Facilities greater than 5,000 square feet in gross building area are prohibited.
Would that work for everybody?
Just adding the word gross twice.
So,
like that.
I
so,
mean, we could add as defined above, but it is defined above what gross building area is.
Yeah.
so my understanding is by the definition above, gross building area includes exterior buildings, storage facilities, any associated equipment that include,
Exactly.
that is gross building area as
Right.
defined
Exactly.
above. Am I correct in that, Tom and Michael?
That's how I read the definition on page 2 or page 1,
Yeah.
gross
Yeah,
building
that's-
area.
That's what the definition includes. So, yeah, I mean, if people are good with this, that's an elegant solution. So,
Mhm.
Okay.
Do we need to make any similar edits in the other place where you I think define it for small and micro? Let's look at
Well, if you
that.
don't mind staying on page 5 for one, you might want to, in the very next part in citing requirements, you might want to put gross building area again.
Here.
That was the last thing I wanted to say about that section.
Okay.
I did have a question about small and micro and the wording of
Okay.
them.
So at the top of the definitions, we're talking, right?
Yeah,
right here.
for micro data center, I thought it would have said is not greater than 150 square feet.
Oh, that's the intent.
Or 150 square feet or less, actually, because that's what we
Yeah.
say later, 150 or less.
Yeah.
Which for me just brought up the question, why isn't small data center given a range of 100, of greater than 150 square feet, but less than
Oh.
not greater than 5,000 square feet?
That's a good
Because
point.
that would mean all micros are also smalls, but not all smalls are micros.
I mean, yeah, that's
I don't know if you want to say less than 5,000 or not greater than 5,000, such
No.
that 4,999 doesn't become.
Tom, you missed your calling. You would have made maybe you did a great copy editor, technical editor.
Yeah. The world is better for people whose brains work like this. It's definitely not mine. Oh, does that doesn't, right? There's no.
Well, the comma before the is in the micro data center. Oh no, there should be a comma after equipment, related equipment, or you can take out the comma after cooling equipment. Either 2 commas or no comma.
Okay.
There we go.
no, hold on. I want to point out that accessory structures is not in this definition right here.
Oh,
It's up here for all data centers. Right there.
Well, that's okay. So,
maybe that should be put down in the gross building area definition and taken out up there.
yeah. Yes, yeah. So here's a question. What's the difference between gross building area and floor area?
Floor
Is
area, I think
is
think, I mean, the way I interpret it, and I totally could be wrong. When I think about floor area, I think, like Keith said, it's 2-dimensional. You know, and then you could have multiple floors, in which case you're getting to a 3D dimension.
Well, not really.
they're both
I think
they're both
the way you
area.
describe gross here is that I think somewhere it says measured from the exterior walls of the building.
Yeah,
So floor area would have been interior floor
correct.
space.
Yeah, right.
So we're just
Well,
kind of
it's
talking how
defined-
big a
it's-
building could be.
It's defined in our bylaw. So let's have a side by side, if we could.
Okay.
Where it's in our, hold on.
Yeah. So if you go to definitions and search, if you do floor area, Mm, no idea. On page 81.
What did you say, Nathan?
It's on page 81, but I'd like to have it,
There we go.
if you, yeah, you're gonna copy and paste it in there.
Oh,
so we
man,
can
you
see.
are. Okay, hold on one second. I just gotta move you guys so I can do that. You're lucky I'm good at this stuff. Okay, floor area. Mm, There you go. Mm,
Yeah. Seems like a good catch.
So here's I mean, I just don't, I'm confused. So do you think floor area inc includes, oh, combined total gross of area of all floors? So it is that.
Mhm.
Huh. Okay. So we don't need this definition of gross. We just have to,
Yeah, just find and replace gross building area with floor area.
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
It may not be quite so simple as that, but we've already made some edits that would probably move us in the right direction.
May I add something to this too?
Yeah,
Sure.
please.
If you just scroll up a little bit to data center,
Yeah.
perhaps that last sentence just doesn't need to be there.
Agree.
It's not really the definition of it because some do exist that are greater than 5. Like you're really getting at the prohibition that's spoken to later with that sentence. But if it weren't there, and if the floor area includes the things like the floor area of accessory structures, and it appears as though it does, then that sentence doesn't have anything that we, I think, need there in the document.
But I think to Jeff's point, we would take the building's accessory structures and put it in the micro and the small. So it was clear that a micro included those things.
Well, I think we're going to be replacing gross building area with floor area in micro and small. And then in the floor area definition, I'm reading something about accessory already there.
Well,
That
it
it
says
shall-
the basement, well, it says the basement or attic space used in connection with the principal or accessory use. It doesn't say anything about outbuildings in the
But we
floor
could
area.
have floor area. I think that second sentence of the floor area one might be tweaked for the purposes of this document.
Hold up.
Get the accessory in.
Tom, if I
Yes.
may. So floor area it defines a calculation. The calculation is applicable to structures, whether it's a principal structure or an accessory structure. And within the regulation of the bylaw, which either allows or disallows said principal structure or accessory structure, is where you may, dictate how that definition applies, right? Or, how you're going to apply that definition to your item. So let me ask another question is, why would we reference floor area in both the definition and in the section of regulation?
Well, I guess my answer would be sometimes having duplication in different places makes it clear because you're going back and forth. If you're reading about data centers, and you can say, you can easily ascertain what the floor area would be and what's allowed. Like, I guess I go back to, the solar thing when Jeff was really insistent that the size of allowable parcels was only a definition. You would read through the whole solar thing and you'd be like, it doesn't say anything about size. And people would, I used to get confused. It's like, I know it's here, I can't find it. And then I would remember, oh yeah, it's in the definitions. So as long as, it's not something that's, inconsistent, I think it's sort of helpful in that. That's my thought.
Well, so two things, based on the way you just described that, it seemed that having it in the definition was confusing because you're looking like, what is this? And two, I don't disagree that repetition is the key to learning. I would say that, when you're constructing documents, it's I don't know, I think it makes more sense for things like that to be identified in a single place to prevent potential errors of having them in two different places and if you're talking about just having a number in two different places, you can but it's I think it makes more sense to have it in one place. I think right, and the other thing was with solar, there was we never got any proposals, right? But if they were, they were we all know they were gonna be greater than 15 acres. And so now it's like, okay, well, it says it's limited to 15 acres in the definition, and the special permit, or the regulation in our bylaw says that, in a special permit application, the board can waive provisions of this section. But if it's in a definition, it's in a different section. So you run into this. I think you could do it. Jeff always said you could do it, right? But I think it makes it cleaner if you have it contained within the section, and leave the definition to just the definition should be a guide for what section applies for your what I'm gonna submit an application. What section of the bylaw is going to be the regulation governing my use, right? Where do I figure that out? That's based on definitions. That's what definitions are for, right? And when I want to go and figure out, okay, what's permitted for this use, what are my requirements? Like we have a dimensional table, right? But that's like a general thing. No use is going to be permitted over 20,000 feet, right? We can say we're going to limit it to 5,000 feet for data centers. But suppose we get an application and it's going to be 5,200, or it's going to be, they want to make it 10,000 square feet, which is allowed by the bylaw. And the reason that they're doing that is because, it's not all like server racks and battery storage and things. They've got some office space in there, right? They want to be able to, do some, for whatever reason, right? But it's not, you're just talking about a bigger building, but you're not talking about necessarily drawing like twice the amount of energy from the grid or having twice the amount of backup generation, right? And you say, okay, we can make an exception for that restriction in the bylaw. But if it's in the definitions too, it makes it less clear that we have the authority to do that.
It's not an unreasonable argument. I wouldn't let's die on my sword over that one. I think, what I would say is we should keep data center in the definition section because you have to define what these things are.
Fully agree with that.
Yeah.
And, and if you do, if the board agrees to move away from including the size in the definition, the, micro data center, small data center, you could argue to remove those from the definition and specify that in the regulation, but I would keep them in and say, it's a, a data, I have a markup of this. It's not necessarily the most refined thing, but I do have it.
Well, I would just keep this language. And if we move this highlighted section out of the definitions, I would just cut and paste it into the 8.13 section.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, I like having them in the definitions because they're in the use table. But you can kind of, I think you have a place in the definitions where these are there and where you say, it's 150 square feet or 5,000 square feet. And you would just say here, micro data center is a data center in which the built facility is or where the the gross floor area adheres to the specifications in section 8 point whatever
13.
Yeah, 8.13. If everyone's all right with that. And
I just got confused, but Keith should go because he was going to say something.
Well, I guess now I'm trying to go back in our conversations of, when it first came up, I think at least in my mind's eye was the big massive facilities being built in other areas. And so we were talking about scale of these things. And I'm as we're going through this, I'm looking at micro data center of, a 10 by 15 foot room or building. And I'm like, that's not even the size of a shed. And do we even need to have that in here? Could we just have small data center, anything less than 5,000 feet or less, and large data center, anything greater than 5,000 feet, and just so I was looking back at the use table, and we have data centers under industrial, but again, a 15 by 10 foot shed to me doesn't. I mean, it kind of cheapens the term industrial. That perhaps small data centers would be under the business, and then we save and put large data centers under industrial and just consider them prohibited in all zones.
You don't have to do that because we
No?
have a prohibitive bylaw, and you say what's allowed in the
Okay.
use statement. And I mean, when you say, we say we're allowing small data centers, and we have a limit of 5,000 feet.
Okay.
And we as a board would have the option to expand that to a max of 20,000 feet, because the waiver clause does not give us the authority to allow a primary building, or the buildings for the primary use to be greater than, was it 20,000 feet in forest conservation or 10,000 feet
Right.
in town center, rural, roadside residential, whatever it is.
Okay.
I mean, my thinking, there's 2 points I think you brought up, Keith. One was, what categories are they in? I mean, technically, you're probably right that a micro is more business oriented than industrial. We could do that. It's just, then you have to sort of find it, but we could do that. I think the other part, for me, the reason having the micro in there is because of site plan review. So
Yeah. I just picked up on that. Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
Generally speaking, the sections of the use table are, organizational and have no effect.
we have light industry listed twice.
Yes, we do.
What would it take to tidy stuff like that up?
That I think we could probably do because I think that in our amendment where we did that, we said we were moving it. We said what we were doing. And I think that the edit of the document was just botched. So it's a botched edit. It's not a change of material fact, and it's, if anything, it would be bringing our we could check, right? But I think we could do that.
Yeah, I mean, they don't change anything because they're identical, so it's just
Right.
Well, that's the thing, right? Now there is one exception. Use category.
You want me to scroll to somewhere, Nathan?
Not yet. Right, lost it. We got so much stuff in the file. You know what I wish we had is headings. For both the Word document and for, I mean, I suppose we do have some stuff in the. Yeah, so that you can basically, navigate, via like headings. If you're looking at a PDF document or a Word document, the different sections are properly, with proper heading formatting, so that you can, say, all right, I'm looking at, Article 5, open space design. Now I need to go back to whatever I'm doing. Mm, all right, I want to say section 8.5-2.
If you want to say that, you can say that. Do you want me to go there?
If yeah, if you can bring up our
Yeah, you don't see it?
Hmm?
I'm
I
staring
see
at it.
floor area. This
You
is in
don't,
our posted bylaw.
yeah. Oh. Okay. I'm not,
It's on page 35.
okay. Um, mm,
And if you share just your Word window, it might not
do you see that I'm in should I stop?
no.
I'm gonna stop sharing and then reshare, I guess.
Right.
Stop share. Share. What page?
It's
Whoops.
oh my God,
You said 8.5, right?
yes, 35, page 35. But it's page 31 on the document, I suppose, right? Yeah.
Okay, right there.
So it's go down to 8.5-2.
Non-residential uses.
Identified as business uses and community uses in the use table shall comply with the following standards unless such standards conflict with the restrictions on municipal regulatory authority contained.
So
Just a
there's
little. So this is just the only reference I'm aware of to the higher level categories of the use table. It's just an FYI, just kind of, say it's, there is something in there for it. And moving, if we were to move it from industrial to business, then it
It
looks like
changes stuff.
this, it would make this apply.
So better to just keep it industrial, I think is the point.
I think so. And also just a note, a little FYI of this little funny reference to it. But yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that though.
Sure. So, nope, wrong one, sorry. Um, yeah, okay. So where we left it was taking micro and small out of definitions and making sure they're in the body of
And the,
8.13.
don't forget the last sentence there of the data center definition.
This.
Yeah.
You're thinking,
And
take this
yes,
out?
yep. But then put the, if you want to, we put the accessory structures down in that section of the regulation. Yeah,
Okay.
you can cut it. Yeah, cut it so you can, you can use it, parts of it if you need to, and then but it might just be adding in. Like
So it seems to me,
so under A, gross building area,
Yeah,
say that the limitations on gross building area in this section shall apply to, principal and accessory buildings. I mean, you might put it right under A,
okay.
about permitted data centers.
can we rehash why we want that?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say we necessarily want that, but if I think that's what the majority of the board wants.
Well, so I mean, I'm not sure. I forget the discussion where that got put in. I'm thinking, again, our initial concern was the scale of the building. And
I
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have two thoughts. One is I sort of don't want to retread some of it because then it gets sort of, we just go back. But I think substantively, the more I mean, the idea, I think the conversation, the way I thought about it was in a data center, there's more than just server racks and servers. There's the batteries, there's, whatever, there might be an office there, there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes as a package deal. And so, I mean, 5,000 square feet is, I mean, that's almost 2.5 times the size of my house.
Yeah.
If
I bet
they,
you there's some houses in town that are close to that.
I know, but I'm thinking if it's a data center, then like it's a big thing. The idea was to sort of limit it. So I sort of like having it be all the stuff that you're going to put associated with it is limited to that.
Yeah, I guess. I'm trying to think. We don't do houses that way. If somebody wants to build a standalone garage or a shed associated with a house, I mean, it kind of confuses or to me, the whole idea of limiting the scale of the building to our town, the primary building.
Well, here's an example. If you had the server racks in a building, but then to Jeff's point of having the batteries external to the building,
Right.
they're part of the operations. You wouldn't count them. Or, there's going to be other operational stuff. Maybe you have external fans for cooling. Like there's there's other accessory uses that are core to the operations. And if it could just be that like, hey, we're going to make this thing as small as we can, and then we'll just have lots of outbuildings, and that we can squeeze it in that way. It seems like it's a loophole in terms of how,
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to think of what we're trying to limit or what we're trying to control. And yeah, it's almost, verging on the accessory dwelling unit. That, yeah, so yeah, if it was a hypothetical, the data center is one building, unoccupied, just a bunch of machines, and then a small office building affiliated with it. We would permit that as one
I think
facility, I guess.
that's how we would do it. I mean, I think it opens up the example that Nathan had, which is like, if, I mean, this would be a discussion for the board to consider, but by requiring them to be a total of principal and accessory use, you're saying it can only be so big. If they came back and say, well, we got a pretty close dimensional fit to what you're asking for the actual operations of the data center, but we have this little office somewhere that we're going to stick on. I think that's a subjective discussion for the board to have of like, what are we trying to do? But the waiver provision sort of gives us that flexibility if we want to have that conversation with someone.
Okay.
I think it's all right, Keith. I mean, it's not how I would do it either. And, but it's,
yeah, no, I'm good with it.
And it may be like cleaner, Michael, to just put at the end of each micro data center, small data center, 150 square feet or less in gross building area, inclusive of principal and accessory structures.
Okay. And I'll change the gross area.
The
for our
floor area.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Okay. That was a robust conversation. Definitely
I
clarifying.
think,
Yeah, it was good.
pretty good.
Um,
I mean, it's
So-
starting to get on in time here.
yeah.
There was one thing, let's,
I do have two other things to say, if I could.
yeah, please.
One is it's a minor thing for all of us except for Mateo. When Nathan and Michael, you say Jeff, you're talking about Jeff Lacey sometimes, and Mateo doesn't know that that you're talking about Jeff Lacey and not Jeff Weston. So I would encourage when you say Jeff, just to throw in Lacey so he understands.
That's a good point.
Anyway, for Mateo, because he wouldn't know. The
Unless
second,
you want a nickname.
you can call. Listen, I taught for 37 years. I've been called many things, and Ashley probably has as well. So you can call me something else besides Jeff if you'd like.
We should refer to Jeff Lacey just as Lacey.
Yeah, or whatever, or make up another name from me. Either is good. I wanted to go to citing requirements if I could on page 5.
Can we stop at 3 first?
Sure.
Or I mean, I don't care. If it's,
Well,
I don't want to ruin your train of thought.
yeah, go to that. We'll go back to 3.
Citing on page 5.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it.
Here, it's now on page 6.
Okay,
Citing
good enough.
requirements?
Okay, good enough. So from my read in this, it seems like you could have multiple data centers on the same plot.
Yeah, that's what we discussed last time.
Yeah, well, I don't think that we should have multiple data centers on the same plot. That means 5,000. what's the difference? I mean, you can have like 5,000-foot buildings on the same plot. So I think it should be clear that one data center per plot.
Well,
and
but it's
I'm-
the second sentence that matters because it's the sum of the floor area of all the data centers.
Well, maybe you should put the word however in front of that. However, the sum of the floor area will determine something like that. I think it should be clear that there's only one data center per plot. That's my 2 cents there.
How about if rather than doing that, if I just do it this way? So it's so the two different things. The sum of the
Mhm.
floor area, would that be
I don't think we should have multiple data centers on one plot.
well? I think we discussed it last time. It seemed like people were okay with that.
Well, I'm not. I don't know about everyone else. So what's the difference between having a 30,000-foot data center and 5,000?
You
It
can't.
doesn't.
You
What?
can have two 2,500s. You could have 5 1,000s.
Oh, that's fine, but they have to be a total amount of. So is that clear? It wasn't clear to me when I read that.
I think it's clear, Jeff.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the intent.
But what wasn't clear is the sentence, to me anyway, was the sentence, data centers need not be contiguous on a parcel. I don't know what that means.
They didn't have to be touching each other. They can be spread out. We can get rid of it if it's unclear.
Yeah,
I mean,
but if
that-
we don't give
that's
anybody
fine, I
ideas.
guess.
Okay, how's that? It
it-
seems like they've got to be separate if they're going to be like 5 1,000 data centers. There's got to be some space between them. Otherwise, they're just one mush anyway. So, I guess you don't need that sentence.
Well, I don't know. When I'm, Nathan said I'm not correct, which is fine. But when I read multiple data centers, I think of multiple data centers of 5,000 each. That's what I think of when I look at that. So maybe it can be clear, multiple data centers with somehow a defining statement saying that they all have to add up to 5,000 feet, or maybe that's just being redundant. I don't know.
Well, I'll give it to you, Jeff, that it is kind of an odd thing. And although I do think that this may be stemming from discussions we had about whether or not we could have data centers on contiguous parcels.
Yeah, and now we
I think it should be-
mixed that.
I think it should be clarified, maybe. However, even though there may be multiple data centers in a single plot, that whatever the word is, it can not be more than 5,000 square feet in area.
I think that's what it says.
Okay.
It says the sum of the floor area, right, will determine the permitting status. What does that mean? So like,
It as used in the use table. So is it a micro? Is it a small? Is it
right.
big?
So determine the permitting status. Are we opposed to putting in, but it can't be bigger than 5,000, but all of them together can't be more than 5,000 square feet?
Rather than that, I would say we should reference the section directly above it.
So we are opposed to that.
Well, I mean, it's just
Redundant.
Yeah, it's this,
Yeah.
You're saying this thing right here. Because we said it right immediately before.
Okay.
Okay.
Or you could just put in parentheses multiple data centers with a combined volume of whatever surface area of an or not included. I'm just saying that when I read it, it's confusing to me.
Okay.
I'm kind of with Jeff on this. It will determine the permitting status, especially, I don't know, maybe it might be a misread or a misunderstanding on my part, but especially because, by special permit, they can be larger. Might not hurt to just put in here. They can't
Uh,
collectively be larger than 5,000 feet.
Something like that I think would be useful
or
or
here's
clarifying.
how's that? It's
I don't want to put in the 5,000 square feet here.
Okay.
It's stated that, I do see how it is confusing though, Jeff. I
How
think
about if
it's
we
just,
got rid of, will determine the permitting the floor area. How about if it just says the sum of the floor area for all will not be larger than 5,000 feet and get rid of determine the permitting status, blah, blah, blah. So like what you just crossed out,
how
you can
about
say
we
that this,
just reference this? So
yeah,
it's
right, yeah, reference, yeah.
E3. Um,
So, I mean, this is interesting. The other thing that brings up, right, is I feel like there are other areas in the bylaw that speak to ownership and, consistencies of ownership or entities within proposals and plans like that. I mean, so, I mean, I'm, and again, I think we were kind of like at first talking about contiguous parcels, not, multiple on the same lot. And then we started talking about whether you could do like an open space design kind of thing. Right, where you're
Yeah, the
essentially doing a
cluster.
subdivision, right? So, I mean, I don't think this is really addressing anything that we had a concern over.
should we just
And
get rid of the whole thing?
yeah,
Just let it
let's
see?
get rid of the whole thing.
I mean, I'm just asking. I'm not saying let's do it. What do other people think?
Yeah, it adds, because it just dawned on me. Um, we have a parcel or a lot could be an acre and a half or 500 acres. And that's just another factor that kind of leads to the logic or rationale behind the way we might word this. You know what I mean? It seems like a parameter that's missing, the size of a lot.
Because we obviously with a house, if you're putting a residence in, there's requirements for 3 acres, correct? I mean, for the most part.
Yeah, it depends on, 2 acres, I think, whatever. I don't know. It varies, but yeah,
It's
something
2
like
acres,
that.
yeah.
So, I mean, I imagine we all know, I mean, maybe that there's lots out in the middle of the woods that are, 0.8 acres that have just been passed on from family member to family member for generations. And is it okay for someone to build a data center on one of those?
Again, we kind of get into like the subdivision rules, right? If somebody has a big plot of land,
Okay,
what
we gotta
governs how
put a
many
pin in
houses
this.
can go
We gotta
on
put a
it?
pin in this. There's too many questions to answer right now. All right. We gotta revisit this. Basically, we gotta put a pin in it. Okay.
I have a suggestion, just not about this particular thing, but I think Nathan, and I think your email about the agenda for the meeting, you wanted to set a public hearing date, and I think that the in-between stage is running it by Donna. So if we highlight this and ask Donna how it seems to her and what she thinks, in terms of wording, could we get rid of it? Could we keep it? Could we define it better? And then, because what we always do is ask Donna, we do a rewrite, and then we come back and go over it. So when we go over it the next time, we could either jettison it or accept her comments or whatever, but that might be a good way to go.
Let me ask this. Does anyone have a problem striking it?
I feel like this conversation has gone on so long that I'm kind of like punch drunk from it, and I don't want to make that decision right now.
Maybe
would-
we can each think about it offline on what the problem is that we're trying to address with this section. I mean, I kind of get it, but I can't really
Yeah.
articulate it very well.
Okay.
It's
That's cool.
clearly mined into something sort of bigger, at least in the last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Does anyone have anything else anything separate from this they want to talk about before we move
Keith?
on?
Section
Keith wanted to get
3.
it. Yeah.
Will you
Hey,
talk
Section 3 or
timeline?
page 3?
Section 3.
Keith, section 3 or page 3?
Oh, I'm sorry. Page 3, number 3.
This one.
Why must a battery be located external to the facility?
That would be for Jeff to answer, because I mean, I know, but I don't want to take his wind steam away.
This is Jeff Weston, right?
Yes, you. The other one's not here.
That's a good question. It is possible in a data center to have a water, some kind of sprinkler system. Matter of fact, it's mandated if the structure is over 5,000 feet, but you can have them less than 5,000 feet. So my concern about that was to have a lithium battery backup, and then you have a fire, you have a water sprinkler system, and then the water sprinkler system goes over the lithium batteries. So if you put the lithium batteries outside, then you don't run into that same kind of issue. That was my suggestion.
Okay. I think we should somehow just, I think we should strike that. I think NFPA 855 in the Mass Fire Code is pretty detailed on internal installations of batteries and containment and isolation and fire suppression. That it may be for the town safer to have these in a isolated room inside a block building than to have them stand alone outside the building. So I think we should just defer to NFPA 855.
I think just following up on that, if we look at E, we talk about the direct application of water or foam with PFAS. So Jeff, that would include sprinklers, correct?
Yes. So you have a situation where you have a sprinkler system and you have lithium batteries inside. So if there's a fire in the building, one would assume that the lithium batteries could also catch on fire. And then we're in a situation where water is sprayed over the lithium batteries, and then we have all those contaminants going right into our groundwater.
So that's where NFPA 855, if you have lithium batteries inside a building, they have to be in an isolated container, not subject to being sprinkled by a general sprinkler system. And again, if it's a building full of computer electronics, I'm not sure they're going to have a water sprinkler system in there. But again, you can get online, you can get free access to NFPA 855 and read through the chapters, chapter and verse on how these things are installed. I don't know that we have the expertise or need to delve into things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeff, what I was suggesting is just like, if you look at 5 here, we're sort of saying that in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you wouldn't have the sprinklers going on the batteries. You might flood the rest of the building, but to Keith's point, if you had it isolated in a contained area, there wouldn't be water directly going on the batteries.
I mean, the fire code, they are pretty in the weeds on everything about the installation of these batteries. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I know firsthand, just in my house.
I wanted to add about.
Anyway, I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Tom? Was it Tom who was speaking?
Yeah,
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. As far as 3E as well, with application of water being prohibited, it is my understanding that in some cases, water can be used to help cool a thermal runaway and whatnot. It is never the first choice, but there are some contained systems that in the worst scenario do allow for the application of water to the battery unit in a contained structure if it's just not responding enough with letting it burn out over time. So I feel as though 3E might be, except for the PFAS or toxin oriented portion of it, but the prohibited part and everything, I feel as though that belongs more in the emergency response plan that would be generated.
Well, the emergency response though is not necessarily thinking about the environmental impact. Like they'll say we want to contain thermal runaway, but they're not going to be thinking about the runoff or anything like that.
Yeah, I had a suggestion for that because I thought PFAS was the focus. Just to reword it to say firefighting and heat suppression agents containing PFAS chemicals are prohibited.
That's how I would suggest it for this one as well.
Question on that. Is this like, are we talking about firefighting or heat suppression equipment that is maintained on premise, or is the idea that this would be applicable to any emergency response?
I don't know that
personnel?
we're going to tell the fire chief what he's going to use to respond to an emergency, but I think we
Yeah.
could say for anything installed on site, we could say no PFAS chemicals. But I don't know
Absolutely.
that we want to get involved in the fire departments.
Well, I don't know if we have the authority to do that.
Right.
Or, I mean, I mean, suppose we do have the authority to impose that in the bylaw, it wouldn't necessarily have the effect of preventing it from happening. It would potentially constitute a violation of the bylaw should emergency response come and use PFAS or spray water on it if the provisions are like this in our bylaw, right? And then you say, okay, well, now that's a violation of the bylaw and your special permit has been violated and we're revoking your use, right? But that doesn't, I mean, so that puts them out of business, but we've still had, water go over it or whatever, and, potentially the effect that we're trying to avoid is not avoided, and it just results in shutting down the economic activity that we're trying to allow in balance with public health and welfare, right? I mean, I think these questions are difficult to answer. I mean, that was kind of like one of the questions I had, right? Which was, that might be out of the realm of zoning to say, fire, unless you're talking about just equipment that's maintained on premise, right?
I think maybe just installed equipment that they would have, again, the
And
various
even
fire
that,
suppression mechanisms that would be installed in a battery container that they can't use PFAS chemicals.
even that, you're starting to get, I think, in real danger of, running afoul of the document you keep referencing, Keith, right?
Well, yes and no, though. I mean, 855 is definitely the go-to. But I think there's a lot, I mean, just sort of thinking about how towns are approaching this, towns are all over the map in terms of, how they're thinking about it. And like I was having a conversation yesterday, and my feeling is the way you get ahead of it is you have design requirements that are associated with precaution and safety. So, I mean, what I'm thinking based on what I've heard was, if we scratch 3A and we expand 3B to talk about that any lithium-ion batteries have to be in a contained, sealed room or facility, whether internal or external, but that it's contained. So it gets to the fact that they're isolated, which is what Jeff Weston's thinking about, but we get rid of the external part. And presumably there's going to be no water on those. I mean, I haven't seen what Tom said about sometimes you want to have the water to bring down the temperature. to prevent the runaway getting worse. But it does beg the question of then containment of runoff.
And that's a separate issue. Again, I think if we get into the emergency response realm, again, fire chief ain't gonna he ain't gonna read the zoning bylaw. He's
Well,
gonna
but I think
address whatever's sitting in front of him.
Well, but I think that's discussion on the front end, like the training and orientation to say, listen, this is different, and you should be reading the bylaw, reading 855. It's not just a house fire kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to suggest an approach is, one, we have provisions for emergency response plans, emergency incident plans, right? And I think we can add a provision that that says, the planning board may impose conditions related to fire suppression and emergency response, provided that they don't violate fire code or other applicable laws, something like that, so that when we get an application and we go through the documentation and we hire, a consultant on the petitioner's dime to review this stuff, and if we see a problem, we can figure it out. And the bylaw says that we can impose conditions with respect thereto. That way we don't have to say, they got to be outside, they have to be a 75-foot buffer, right? There has to, and all these specific things. We can say, somewhere in the purpose, it could say, a primary concern with data centers and their ancillary systems would be contamination getting into the environment, right? Especially in the event of fire. So review of these emergency response plans and procedures with both the entity that will be operating the data center with local emergency response is going to be a key part of the special permit review process, and the planning board may implement additional conditions with respect thereto to ensure public safety. And we don't have to put this all in here right now. It's something to roll around. I mean, everybody everyone shares concerns about our drinking water. But I think, it's very difficult to address everything, with some of these specifics up front.
So here's building on that. I guess the way I would respond is like, I'm not as attached to the external as long as we put in the isolated facility, because it seems like the way you're describing it, there's the initial design for the construction, and then there's emergency response. And so the parameters around construction and design are within our bailiwick. So I would say, B for the individual containers and C for the buffers, and D, those are all design things of like how you build this thing. And then taking E and in some version of what you said, put it in the emergency response, being a smidge more. I think it's important to say what the concern is, because if we just say public health, welfare, and safety, it's really vague. But to talk about the protection of drinking water, et cetera,
Yeah,
it points in the right direction. So that would work for me. Jeff, is that Jeff Weston, how do you think about that?
Already we've spent as a town $700,000 on trying to mitigate the pollution that we have from PFAS and some oil contamination as well in our aquifer. So my primary, I do the best I can to represent the people that voted for me. And if I listen to their voices internally, I'm saying, well, we really need to protect our aquifer. So I think there must be some, some protection. I would prefer it in a bylaw to mitigate possible problems with contaminating our aquifer. And I don't think we could depend on the fire chief in reality. So I think there should be something in the bylaw somehow separating the lithium batteries from the rest of the building that might have a water suppression system or whatever fire suppression system that they include. There should be some kind of separation. The reason why I thought external is because, these lithium batteries burn, extremely hot. And my concern is that water suppression from the other facility, if there's a fire, would get into the lithium batteries and create leakage, which would go right into our aquifer. So that is my concern. I'm overwhelmingly concerned about our aquifer.
Uh-oh.
Gain that we might have is
Ashley, what you got? You're muted.
Has anyone spoken with the fire chief? I think I saw in the last meeting that from the minutes that was it Keith, and I'm sorry, like, because I'm not obviously doing it myself, but is it worth having a conversation and just, asking is PFAS something that is a possibility? Does that exist in the foam that you would use? Do you all have a plan for something like this?
So I can add some stuff I heard. I listened to the Board of Health meeting from last month, and so it's third hand, I guess, from Catherine was relaying a conversation she had with Chief Zerwanka, where they were talking about the wheel-lock batteries, and he expressed he had less concern for those than he did for and I think what he relayed to her was he's not worried about those. He's worried about the tools and the scooters and the e-bikes. He says that he firmly believes, and this is again second or third hand, firmly believes the first house fire he responds to in Shutesbury related to a lithium-ion battery is going to be a tool or an e-bike or some device in somebody's house.
He's probably not wrong.
Yeah, I think he talked about how stringent the wiring code and the fire code is as far as installation of these things. That it's very, and I think she talked to Mo too, and he concurred that the way these things, the big commercial ones are installed or home ones are installed, that they're of a less concern than the toys and the scooters and the bikes. Second, the foam. So I did a deep dive just because I enjoy this stuff. The AFFF that's used for firefighting, aqueous film forming foam, which is the source of the PFAS contamination in our town, and pretty much every PFAS contamination site in the world, relates to training. The PFAS, the foams used historically were upwards of 40% PFAS. So for 5-gallon jug of firefighting foam that would then be mixed with firefighting water, 5 gallons, 3 gallons of that is pure liquid PFAS. And so what happened is at airports, at military bases, at any firefighting training sites where they trained with these foams, it was day after day, week after week of applying these foams because it was thought that they were benign and they weren't harmful. Come to find out that all these sites are now contaminated. So that's why it's at our fire station. And I haven't talked to Walter or Chief Zerwanka on, and they may not want to share it because I don't know what, litigation hold might, the town liability of the town of exactly, since the 1960s or 70s when these chemicals started being used in firefighting. How many times did the fire department train with this? And do they have an estimate of how much they used that caused our contamination problem. So the takeaway, and I think I might have shared this with you, Michael. So the takeaway is that the groundwater contamination from PFAS is from very highly concentrated concoctions of PFAS chemicals. If you look at what's typically in your can of Scotchgard or something like that, which is the other source of PFAS, it's much less. So I think I couldn't find any evidence where the use of firefighting foam at a emergency response resulted in groundwater contamination. Most of that runs off down a sewer, into a creek, whatever, and flushes down, dilutes its way through the system until it's gone. The soaking into the groundwater was specific to training facilities where it was used over and over and over again. And typically foam, the whole purpose of this aqueous film forming foam is for petroleum fires. It's not electrical fires. It's used for gasoline, oil, airplane fires, things like that. So I don't know that a battery or a data center, foam's not even they're not going to use foam.
Thank you, Keith. That's very illuminating. We got some things to think about here. So
I guess that's the only thing I would add, and I appreciate the information Keith provided. I think I heard a little bit of what you said, but not, previous to tonight. But
sound like my wife.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't listening. I don't think you told me that whole bit. But I feel like for the bylaw, it's easily that in 20 years we could be discovering something new, so I'd rather sort of lean, and because this is all relatively new technology anyway, I'd rather sort of lean into the protective nature for these things, because after the fact, the barn door is open and it's sort of so it's not
So
to say
I'll offer a counter to that. The rule of unintended consequences in that you might have the potential. Again, I'm not saying this is, the chemicals. You could extinguish a runaway battery fire with certain chemical that has PFAS, and it could extinguish the fire, stop the process, and be done with it. Or come and spray water on it to cool it for a day and have the runoff from that. So you kind of weigh, all right, what damage are we talking about? Or, what risk are we talking about? The risk of putting a fire out quickly with a chemical that we don't like, or letting the fire burn and emit whatever it's going to emit for, 6 hours.
And to add to that, if there's a crazy drought going on and we're concerned about lighting all of Shutesbury on fire, maybe you go for the quicker option.
Exactly.
And so that's why it is tricky to regulate for these things beforehand. I think that some of it should go into the site plan design, but into the bylaw, like the 75-foot buffer seems like a good plan to me.
Yeah.
I don't know why we wouldn't put that.
Yeah.
I think I'm honestly, Jeff, I feel a little concerned about putting the battery outside of the building. I get what you're saying with the water. I don't know. It would be interesting to see if other people have done this, but of course I know we're sort of in uncharted territory here by doing a data center bylaw.
I suggested that just because of the possible water contamination.
Yeah, I get it.
In terms of PFAS, I used to teach this stuff, not that I'm an expert in it, but PFAS chemicals can last hundreds, thousands of years. They don't don't degrade naturally. So, I respect everyone's, varying opinions. It's just that I am overwhelmingly concerned about our aquifer contamination. I am not so concerned about getting economic gain from the data center. I mean, that would be wonderful, but my main concern is protecting our aquifers. So that's why I suggested some separation, 75 feet. So in case there's
Yeah.
a burn, it has to be separated because we only have a 3,000 gallon pumper, and we could possibly keep the forest around the battery from catching fire, but we don't have enough water, nor should we have enough. We don't have enough water to certainly put it out, and we don't want to apply these chemicals that do not degrade naturally. Thousands of years they don't degrade. So maybe I feel differently from everyone else. That's possible, but I will not vote for something that possibly can contaminate our aquifers. I feel very strongly about that. And I could be the outlying vote, and that's fine. But I want to protect our aquifers as much as I possibly can. So that's the way I feel about it.
Jeff, if you are the one outlying vote, I'm going to support that. You get all of your reasons for being so out.
Well, so here, I want to,
And I feel if we took a vote of the people that voted for me, they would probably agree with me in terms of the importance of protecting their aquifers, especially the people around the fire station who are dealing with that issue right now in terms of the valuation of their property, in terms of taking in PFAS chemicals and other chemicals. I would imagine that they feel very strongly about this. So
I just explained how that site happened. It wasn't an emergency response with a one-time application of a chemical. It was years, decades of repeated applications. I think you're mixing up potential outcomes. If I'm in a car and my car's on fire and there's a pool of gas under my car, guess what? You can spray all the PFAS you want all over me, my car. I don't care. Put the fire out. So I think, yeah, we're getting out of our lane, I think.
well, I mean,
We got to stop. We got to stop.
yeah. Okay.
We're just we're going around in circles, Michael. Hold on. Listen.
I'd like to have 30 seconds to respond.
No, I'm cutting it off. We gotta move on in our agenda. All right. We've talked about this enough.
Okay.
And I want to I think Michael, as the drafter of this, has a tough task to distill the conversation we just had into how we're going to move, but it's 8:49. Okay. We got a few things left on our agenda. I don't know if we're going to do all. Okay, but so I'm going to just leave one thing in that I don't know, to understand the actual risk involved in one decision or another. That I think is our task, right? And it's difficult to do that. It's extremely difficult for any of us to do that. Okay.
And hey, Jeff, I apologize for being emotional or
no
vocal.
apologies. This is what makes our planning board fantastic. We have differing opinions. We can express with respect what we feel, and then assume that we have the wise counsel of all of us together will make an informed decision that's best for the town.
Mm-hmm. So it's January. We have so we've got this some of this stuff here is we have questions on, but I don't know if it would be a terrible thing to reach out to Donna and maybe start to get a legal review going on this.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was gonna suggest is like the bulk of this stuff is not in play. And Donna's not gonna chime in about the substance of this stuff unless it was a protected use, which this really is not. I mean,
she might if she's afraid of conflicting with like fire codes or or anything like that, but that, probably not, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and
So we could
also,
set up a
right,
meeting. I send it to her and then we can come back in February and sort of hash out the substance and all. I've done my best to sort of reflect this conversation.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I was saying we can set up a meeting with Donna sometime
Okay.
between now and the next meeting.
Okay,
Based
yeah,
on her input in this conversation, I can then put something out that we could talk about in February. And then we can
and,
hold, have a public hearing in March.
okay. And then, should we, send it out to like the Concom and the Board of Health?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Fire chief. Yeah, I saw in the minutes, it said Nathan Murphy said he's gonna reach out to the fire chief. I was like, I did? I forgot about that when we did our review, but, so let me do a little reminder for myself. And I would, obviously there's a lot of, I feel like the discussion, maybe the discussion might be getting a little bit emotional. So, if anyone, Jeff, Keith, anyone else that wants to, try and put together some information on this that can help us understand, what kind of risk we're looking at, right? And, like to try and make a decision of how, we might approach that, whatever you might have or might be able to put together might be helpful. Might be something that could be kind of supplemental materials. So I don't know. That's an idea. I don't know what we'll get from it, but we'll work with Donna. We'll send it to other boards and get some broader feedback on it.
I appreciate you reaching out to the chief. I'm interested to hear what Len has to say about it. Maybe you
Yeah.
want to come to a meeting. I don't know.
Well, and just a quick little addendum to the conversation that Keith was alluding to with Kat and everyone. I bumped into her at the library opening, and I think she said that the fire chief, more or less, if there was a fire at one of the batteries on the Wheelock site, his standing orders are to let it go, right? And then control the area or whatever. So that's but I think reaching out to the fire chief, I can do that. I am going to set a reminder right now just because I need to. And then we're gonna, I think, probably have a brief conversation around what's next on the agenda. Is it
The dissenting opinions. Yeah, the minority opinions. And I think it could be sort of quick. You want to multitask and do your reminder?
reach out to fire chief? Okay.
Yeah, and floodplains is not pressing at all, so we can.
Okay.
Yeah, and I sent out some notes before the meeting. So I think I sent everyone a bunch of stuff based on the research, which I was supposed to do. And so, I mean, I looked at Robert's rules. I looked at town meeting time, which is the guiding document for how we do town meeting. Nettie chimed in as moderator. And I think so. Robert's rules, town meeting time says nothing about it at all. There's no mention of dissenting opinions and minority reports at all. Robert's rules does, but the thing to note is Robert rules is for every meeting, so like if you're a nonprofit and you have a board and you're run by Robert's rules, it's very different from municipal government. It's not necessarily, I think maybe Congress runs by Robert rules, so the legislature does. So it's a lot of different things. What Nettie made clear in her comments, which I think everyone saw, is that for town meeting, there's no minority report, which is something that Robert's rules identified. So the way to think about it is there's a committee level minority opinion dynamic, and then there's a town meeting minority opinion dynamic, and they should get treated differently because they're different settings. So that's really the way to think about it. So what I told Nathan is, my charge was to do the research and not sort of make a proposal, but I sent you the last document as a proposed plan only because I had the impression people were going to say, you got all moving parts, but what does this mean? How do we do it? And so Nathan, can I take just a couple of minutes to outline that, and then we can ask questions and discussion?
Your proposal?
Yeah, because it's sort of factual. It's based on the facts that I gathered, but it's sort of, and we don't have to do it, but I explain why. I think it was the best way to do it. So.
Are you gonna share it?
Oh yeah, sure. I can definitely share it. You didn't memorize it?
No. I read it. I did read it.
I'm cut to the quick. Okay, can you guys see it? So, like I said, there's sort of the board level and so at the board level, standard procedure, on any matter at hand, the majority position prevails. And what both Robert Rules said and for town meeting is that whatever the majority position is becomes the official opinion of the board. So there is no such thing as a minority report at the town meeting context. I can get to that in a second, but if there is a written report from the board, when we do a public hearing for a bylaw, or if there's a recommendation or a decision and we feel like we have to sort of write it up, the substance of that can only be what the majority thinks based on our vote. And then there's two who are in the minority opinion. And so
what did you just say, Michael? You cut out for a second. I'm sorry.
For people who have a minority report, there's sort of a minority opinion, there's sort of two options at the board level. So what's interesting is that if we've never done this before, but when we have our report to town meeting about a hearing, and just, if someone says, I can't agree with this, I want to go on record that I dissent. The way Robert's Rules articulates it would be all the members sign our name, or we have our names typed at the end of it after the report, and then the individual or individuals who are dissenting can say they do not concur, and then have their names. So it goes on record that they're not concurring. You don't go into all the points. It just says that you're not. If there's one item, it says if it's dissent is one item, you can say like I'm dissenting with section 4.73, but otherwise you just sort of say I don't concur with your name. So that's sort of one way to do it.
Michael.
Yeah.
I think on that it's more if like you vote in the affirmative for the report, but with the exception of this one line, but you're still like approving the report. I thought that's how I read it.
That could be, yeah. I think that's actually, you're probably right. Or you could vote against the whole thing. But yeah, I think that gets to the subtle point of like, I'm in agreement except for whatever. You're right. And then the second thing, which I think is really for us to decide, is if two or more members had a minority opinion, they could get together, and it's not a minority report. I came up with a minority statement is another term, but basically writing a document that then gets attached to the minutes. So it's more substantive. So it's like, we don't agree. This is why it gets put into the official record along with the minutes, but it stays at the committee level. It doesn't go on to town meeting. That's sort of the critical difference between Robert's Rules and how town meeting works. And then at town meeting, there's two things. One is that only the official recommendation of the board gets presented to town meeting, and it's either by the chair or a representative of the board. And that's the recommendation of the body. And then for people who are on the board who have different opinions, they always reserve the right as members of town meeting, in this case, to express their opinions as part of the public debate. Notably, one can identify themselves as a member of the board, You just can't say that you're it's not the recommendation of the board, but it's sort of saying, well, I'm part of the planning board and I had all these conversations and this is what I disagree about. But everyone always has the right to do that on the floor, which is what Nathan did last time. And then I think that's it. And I guess the last thing I just note is Nettie's comments were based upon looking at statute and town council. So that's where the whole realm of how we actually do town meeting and why it differs from Robert's rules. And the last thing, which is for another conversation, is I mentioned to Nathan that whatever we agree to, we should codify and document somewhere. I'm thinking we might want to have a policy book or something like that so it actually can survive beyond this particular planning board. So in 5 or 10 years, someone says, what happens if I dissent? There's a written answer somewhere. But I think that's a subsequent conversation. So that's basically what I found out and why I sort of laid it out this way. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Well, I would like to speak to it if no one else has any immediate questions.
I do have a question. I'm just wondering, I think I get it, but so let's say, we pass this bylaw on,
Data centers.
thank you, data centers. And I don't agree with it, either completely or one certain part of it. All right. And also Jeff doesn't. And he and I disagree with the same issues, okay? Or the same parts of the bylaw. So we can write a statement that will be attached to the minutes of that meeting. But the bylaw still passes in the planning board and will get voted on at town meeting. And it's okay at that meeting for Jeff and I to stand up. Could we read that statement from the minutes and say, we're on the planning board and, we have this reason why we disagree?
I think it'd be up to the moderator to decide if you could read it or not.
Okay.
I think the moderator rules. And I will say, I mean, one of the wonky arguments around in the context of Robert rules is Robert's rules say that only a group can do a minority report. Now we've established minority reports can't happen in town meeting, but there was a discussion online about is a group more than one person? Some people said you could be a group of one. So I think that's for us to decide. If you had a strong opinion, we as a planning board could say, hey, if Ashley's got really strong opinions, let her write up a minority statement and we'll take that document and we'll include it as the and attached to the minutes as well. So it's up to us to decide, is a group 2 people? And do they have to agree or can they just,
Group are not 2 people. I don't understand.
I agree. I just say what they said.
Wait, what was that, Ashley?
I said, when is a group ever not more than one person? Like, how can one person be a group? But
Group of one.
that's not even what it is. I'm just wondering, at what point do you cross a line at town meeting? Like, if I actually read the minutes, assuming they've been approved already and they're public and all that, is that crossing a line? And you answered, you said the moderator deals with it.
Yeah.
Well, Ashley, if I may, you can absolutely read it, whether it's approved in minutes or not. It doesn't matters not whatsoever. If during the debate you approach the microphone and are recognized by the moderator to speak, though a time limit would be imposed on your remarks. So you can read whatever you want. It doesn't have to be in the minutes. You can say you're on the planning board, but if it's as it currently stands, the idea is that you say you're a member of the board, but that you're speaking as a voter.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't read things from executive session.
Right. Yeah.
No.
I think the
That's
only
confidential information, but that's not.
Yeah. So anything that's not confidential and I'm not, I think I would be able to articulate any issues I had without having to read a statement from the minutes. I'm just giving a sort of extreme example to see where the line is drawn.
Yeah, I think the only
I would
asterisk
say that's not extreme whatsoever.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the only asterisk I would add is that you probably couldn't say this is a minority report because those aren't recognized, but you could say this is what me and Jeff think, and then read something like that's totally cool.
So, anyone else?
Jeff Weston, of course, not Jeff Lacy.
Um, so I would say I pretty much disagree with these, the kind of the way that this thing is constructed. And, I don't know, I've been doing quite a bit of research on this myself. I haven't, collated it, together. I think I'll probably, put something together and, send it to folks. Just to run through some things, quick, I would say that, the minority report of a committee to an assembly can be one person, absolutely can be one person. We'll get the substance of that, we'll do it. But for example, if this board, if we stood up a, committee to, even if it was 5 people to do something and put a report to the planning board, I would rule as chair, and it's my job to, decide rules of order. Yeah, if one person on that committee, submitted a report, I would absolutely allow it. And it would be, if someone objected to it and a majority did not vote to hear it, then, that would be that. But I would certainly accept a minority report from a single person. It's, the use of individuals is not, in the plural does not, preclude, an individual group of one that's in a minority. For example, it's,
And you're talking at the committee level, not town meeting.
well, it doesn't matter. And
No, it does,
no, it doesn't. I would disagree that, minority reports are precluded from town meeting. It's provided for in the personnel bylaw, and we've seen it in the past with, the finance committee. There is moderator, discretion, obviously, but I think the problem in our situation is that the statutory provision for a planning board report to town meeting is being conflated with a minority report, or whether one can be done. The statute doesn't need to provide for there being a minority report or including dissenting in the, so, one, right, if we wanted to, in our report to town meeting, include a section on, if anyone's dissenting, why they dissented, we absolutely could do that if we voted to do it. We need nothing to do that, except the
but we've
majority
also-
vote of the committee.
But the moderator and town council.
Michael,
Yeah,
let me speak.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And as far as, if there's a minority in the board, I would, go so far as to interpret it that, in the town meeting context, that, a minority, whether it's 1 or 2 people, could put together a report and submit it to the moderator, say this is a minority report. And if the moderator rules that they're going to accept it, they could do it. Simple as that. And they could let you go up and present. I know, Ashley and Jeff are on the planning board, and they did not concur with this report, and this is what they have to say about it. And then, oftentimes if if you give 5 minutes to the, majority, you might give 3 minutes to the minority. And, the same kind of thing may apply of like, or, if someone objects, then you put it to a vote and you require a simple majority and it's not debatable, right? So, I mean, that's my take on it, whether or not, I mean, that I think that, the moderator has the authority to do that.
So the only 2 things I would say is with our current town council and our current moderator, they've both agreed that that can't happen. So I don't think it's for this body to make that argument. If one wanted to make the argument that they're wrong and try to convince them, but that's different. But they've already,
we have no authority to impose that.
right, but it's
the
sort of like
moderator.
right.
This is my opinion that it's within the moderator's power to allow it.
Maybe. The other thing I would just say, which is I think in Robert's rules, which I found interesting, is that the reason for committee reports to an assembly, whatever the committee is and whatever the assembly is that the assembly wants to know what the recommendation of the official recommendation, which is why they say this is the board opinion. And it's not a majority opinion versus a minority opinion. It's always the board opinion because people have to vote. And so that's just one of the things that was written that I saw in the research is that the body always wants to know what, the assembly wants to know what the committee basically represented. So I don't know if that informed Donna or Nettie's opinion, but it jumped out at me. So, I mean, I think we have to figure out what we're going to do it as a board, and then town meeting's a different deal.
Well, as a board, there's one thing that we need to do, in my opinion, and that is to approve our reports in the future by a majority of the board. And what we did this last time was to not do that and say, you'll do a draft and get it to me, right? We can't do that.
Right. I agree.
Right? We either have to, I mean, if it's over 21 days, we can just say, yeah, whatever. I would not support that approach, obviously. So we either gotta do it when we right after the hearing, if we're in a crunch time, or we gotta call an off-cycle meeting or something. Right, and there's a little bit of stuff in Robert's rules that speaks about, if you go to every member of the committee and they say it's all right, you can do that. So that's a potential avenue of it. I think that would run into open meeting law possibly. So because you are, if you're putting out the report, it's kind of like a communication to a quorum of the board. So so a lot to think about, right? I think reasonable people can come up with different areas of this, but I think for us, the most important thing is that our reports are approved by a majority of the board. And if a majority of the board wants to put in a section that, if there's one or two members who have dissented and highlight what those are in an organized fashion, we can do that. If people don't agree, then we won't do that. It's as simple as that. And we don't have to make it any more complicated than that. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not interested in doing a policy book or something like that, but this is not an issue unless we run into that situation again where you have like a chair that's dissenting and whatever we went through last time. If we put it to a majority vote, then then we're clear. We can yeah.
Are we talking about when we actually write up the warrant, the agenda item that's going to go on to town meeting, that the dissenting opinion be attached to that? Or
No.
are we talking about just the ability of someone to speak at town meeting?
No, we're talking about the report, the planning board report to town meeting.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's kind of one piece, right?
It's a separate document that is required by law that we do, so that we're basically, it's the mechanism for us to report to town meeting what the board is recommending to town meeting.
Which is different from the warrant article itself.
Yeah, and is also different from minutes. So the minutes are going to capture the whole debate.
Okay. That clears things up for me. Thank you. Thanks.
And just a few extra notes. I can give you a minority report or dissenting opinion from the Amherst Planning Board that appears on the Amherst Town website. That was part of the materials available at town meeting before they updated their charter. I can give you a warrant article that includes the planning board report in the warrant article and provides not only the dissenting views of the planning board members that did not concur, but those of the select board members that did not concur. So you can do it. You can do it if you want to.
Well, the charter commission stuff is different. There's examples of that as a separate case. Like there are different.
This is pre-charter commission.
No, but like there are examples of minority reports around charter commissions, and one of the examples is Amherst that they call out.
On the current charter commission, they have rules and procedures for the Board of Selectmen, I think, or the town council. And on those, they indicate that I don't think they want a minority report. They say that the report of a committee will include those views of those dissenting with the report.
Yeah, that's a different beast.
It's a different beast, but it's
Yeah.
also an example treatment of the topic at hand. As far as the statute, right? It doesn't prevent us from doing that. It just says that we need to provide a report with our recommendations if town meeting is to vote on a proposed bylaw amendment within 21 days of a public hearing. If we don't do that, then, it doesn't say that whether or not we can include specifically a section that deals with reasons for members who did not concur with the majority.
That's true.
Now-
There is no mention of minority report in statute though, because I looked.
No, there's absolutely not. But I mean, there wouldn't need to be. It just says you need the report to be able to vote on it, unless it's over 21 days. Now, we've all got a lot to think about. I'm in the process of gathering information. I'm gonna put some stuff together, and obviously, what the town moderator is gonna do is out of our hands, right? It is their ruling on whether or not a town meeting would receive a minority report. Like separately, right? So if you guys said, no, Nate, you can't do your little piece in our report, or no, Jeff and Ashley, sorry, they can read the minutes if they want to hear what you have to say, right? You can write up a report and call it a minority report and send it to the town moderator and the select board and whoever is going to deal with that. I mean, the town moderator, I think is, I mean, it might be an interesting question as far as like whether it's in the printed materials or whether the moderator has full control over all that or not. That I don't know enough about it to say that, right? But I would tend to say the moderator has a huge amount of discretion in that, and the moderator could say, yeah, I'm into this. We're going to include it, and we're going to let you present right after whoever the chair or the designee of the chair or the committee speaks for the committee or board position. We're going to let you talk for a lesser amount of time, but just the same. Or they could say, no, we're not. The moderator has broad discretion to make rulings on matters of order, right? So whether or not, and my argument, of course, is that this has been conflated with what the statute requires for the passing of a zoning amendment. And I don't think that it should be. That's my opinion, but I mean, that's so I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but for right now, I would like to table floodplains and table executive session. Everyone in concurrence? I'll do that with a simple nodding here. I'm going to note for the minutes that the
I'm
board
nodding
is
too.
That being the case, did I miss anything? I want to say we don't have any member updates or any unanticipated business. Do I have anything on the agenda that we have not touched on?
No. I wanted to say appreciation for this board for the volunteer work that we do. Nathan, Michael, everyone, Keith. And we're volunteers. We want to do what's best for the town, and I appreciate our dialogue. So I want to say that to everybody, and we should feel good about it because this town runs on volunteers. We've got 80 plus volunteers, and if we disagree, I feel completely fine about that. And that's what a good board should be. It should be saying what we feel is best and then coming to a consensus the best we can. So I want to end feeling good about what we're doing as a board and individually and collectively. And it's an honor to be with all of you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
If I may, I'd like to echo Jeff's sentiments, and also for purposes of posterity, I am in no way pro PFAS. I am very concerned with our groundwater and groundwater contamination and public health. Yeah, I am not advocating the release of any PFAS chemicals or any other chemical wantonly. So just to be on the record.
Yeah, we're here because we care about our community. Otherwise, we'd be doing something else rather than this. So, thank you, Keith. Thank you, everyone, for all the work that we're doing together. It makes a difference. You know, what we've done has made a difference. So, thank you.
I'm going to add one more thing and then we can adjourn. So I agree with these guys totally and massively appreciated. The thing I would add, which is a recent insight, is Jeff Lacey pulled me into working with him a little bit. And so I had insight into an unnamed town. But this planning board is really like smart, educates ourselves on the issues we're thinking about, asks really good questions. I mean, there's a reason like the quality of our stuff that we're churning out is high quality because we're having these exchanges and we're doing outside thinking or research or whatever. It's not a given is what I'm learning, you know. Yes, you're always trying to get people to come onto boards, but some boards we do more work than other boards, and this is a rocking board in that regard. So I think we should.
That's good to hear too, Michael. Thank you, and thank you, Jeff and Keith. Yeah, I'm really big on having a diversity of opinions and having disagreements. You know, I think it's so important to have different perspectives and you know, a lot. You know, obviously, consensus building is a difficult skill to master. It's a challenge, and we try the best we can to do it. You know, you're not always going to get there 100%, right? But you know, having a robust conversation and including all kinds of different perspectives on it is you know, very top of my list on, you know, what I value about our work here and the approach that I like to see taken with it. So thanks to everyone. We got a little bit of work cut out for us here, but no more tonight. Let's hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And seconded.
I'll second.
Ashley second. All right, so Michael moves, Ashley seconds to adjourn. And do we have any discussion? All right, good. I'll call the roll. We're going to go with Keith Hasty,
Aye.
Michael DeChiara,
Aye.
Ashley Pycroft,
Aye.
Tom Seifert,
Aye.
Jeff Weston.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion carries unanimously. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks, Jeff.